to realise our own worth.
Good speech, very good speech.
Ian McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great pleasure to stand up and speak in strong support of the Prime Minister's motion and statement of yesterday. I wish you, Mr. Speaker, and all members of this House a very happy and challenging new year. I'm very proud to be a member of a party who have the courage to do what's right for New Zealand. This week, I've heard a number of speeches from across the House which clearly demonstrated a lack of vision, of ideas, even a skerrick of new policy. In fact, most of them spent the entire speech talking about the government's policies, a sure sign that the government is on the right track. What an impetuosity to have to listen to Gareth Hughes talking about the National Party scaremongering. He clearly does not recognise the symptoms, or he wouldn't practice it so frequently himself. He talks of a smart green economy. Well, I can assure you he will create a small desert-like economy if he has his way. For me, the first year here has been one of settling in, observing with interest how effective members of this House make a difference. There are some snippets one picks up in life, in business, in relationships that set standards by which success is achieved, whatever success may be. The ability to observe others in action and learn from that observation is also important in the pathway to success. For some reason, in this House, successes are making a noise, criticising for the sake of it and the hope it may grab a headline, and it sometimes does. For others, just talking for the sake of it seems to give them a buzz. Mr. Speaker, I grew up in the days of party lines, and not the party lines that are practised in this House. And I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, that those people are nothing but a nuisance. They hinder progress, inhibit growth, and stop those wanting to do business from doing so. For those of us in the back row of the government benches, success is being part of a process of making good law, critiquing, not criticising policy, adding value to the aspirations of those that support the government's vision for New Zealand. We are not headline grabbers. We do not seek attention. We merely play our part in the betterment of our electorates and their matters of concern. To borrow a phrase from the doyen of New Zealand retailing, L.V. Martin, it's the putting it right that counts. And that's what we do over here. And haven't we had to spend some time in the last 3 years putting it right? Education, the government has taken a lead in education, and I think we are doing a great job. In my electorate, I have some 80-odd schools, most of which are performing extremely well. Health, a great performance by the 3 health boards that service my electorate, a significant increase in treatment, and much better performance than we saw from the health industry some 3 or 4 years ago. The law and order area, which is an area of interest, particular interest to me, in that I am a member of that law and order subcommittee, a select committee. We have made significant progress in reducing crime, and I think we have a police force that leads the world. Then to be greeted by an economy suffering from a world recession unheard of since the 1930s. And this government has managed its way through that, and I think we are now in as good a position as any country in the Western world. Just having got through that, we move on to Christchurch, and a $30 billion cost to this country hits this government just as it thinks it's getting things on its feet. Mr. Speaker, last week I went to Ratna, which interestingly is about in the middle of the bottom of my electorate. And while there, we saw a new housing project that had been completed in partnership with the Maori Party and this government. We also saw, yes, all 150 of them. We also saw, Mr. Speaker, some great progress with treaty settlements. And under this government, in excess of 30 treaty settlements have been completed. And I think under Minister Finlayson, that is an amazingly good achievement. And I, for one, am certainly looking forward to the continuation of this treaty settlement process, as I'm sure it is going to strengthen rural New Zealand significantly. So, Mr. Speaker, it certainly has been a case of it's putting it right that counts. That's right. The people of the Rangitikei electorate are looking forward to this year with optimism. There's a sense that the economy is on the move, that tourism and food production sectors will have a good year, nature permitting, and it may not. that this John Key-led government will continue to give the people of the Rangitikei the best opportunity to prosper. Items that are of particular interest in my electorate are stimulated by the targets set by the Business Growth Agenda to lift the value of our exports to the economy from 30 to 40% of GDP by 2024. Given that the primary production sector currently accounts for 72% of all merchandise exports, this target is significant. We've seen the ACC, which I think is one of the gems of our New Zealand economy, perform much better than it had done for some time. There's also been a dramatic improvement in its performance, and the farming sector, of course, one of the critical sectors that ACC has concerns with, and a significant amount of cost to that sector as a result of the ACC levies. Nonetheless, the ACC does a great job for our rural sector, and I'm looking forward to that continuing with strength. I want to move on now to the primary growth partnerships. The government has, through the Ministry for Primary Industries, invested in excess of $650 million in PGPs to help boost the export sector. And in the past 2 days, we've seen an exciting new initiative announced by Beef and Lamb New Zealand, whereby the Ministry will partner with Beef and Lamb, invest over $30 million over 7 years in partnership with the bulk of the major players in the red meat industry. This has great potential to refocus this industry's attention on the future. I'm confident these PGPs will boost productivity significantly as the results of this work impact on the productive sector. And I guess you could use a Claire Curran quote and say we may well end up at the end of this with digital sheep. The Irrigation Fund will also make a huge contribution to our increased productivity, and a potential $400 million investment here will be seeded by $80 million in this year's budget. And ask anyone in the Hawke's Bay right now what they think of the Irrigation Fund. They will be extremely pleased with it. The Prime Minister has in the last few days re-emphasised the National Government's determination to make haste with the reforms so badly needed to encourage the economic recovery we all want. He's confirmed our commitment to a better result for our education sector. He's made a very strong statement around our housing requirements and of the need to continue to reform the RMA to enable developers and councils to provide the availability of land and indeed deal with section prices in a manner that can be afforded by this economy. Job creation and training for our young people are foremost amongst the government's priorities for the next year, and the new incentives around apprenticeships will be welcomed by all. Much has been said on this topic by previous government speakers, and I can only offer my full support to this. Welcomed also will be the clear signal given by the launching of the 5 new vocational pathways in construction, manufacturing, the primary sector, the service sector and social services. This is a groundbreaking and decisive move by this government to give our young a clear pointer as to where the future is in this country. I want to spend a little time, Mr Speaker, speaking about the manufacturing sector today, a sector the government has prioritised in its planning and training for the future. In the Rangitikei, we have some outstanding performers in this sector, a number of them in the agricultural space. They are doing well, despite Winston Peters' dollar, because they have embraced the new era, technology and skills, cut their costs and up their efficiency. A number of the companies in my electorate are involved in manufacturing and designing with the environment and sustainability very much to the fore. They are competing on the international market stage with great success. However, that stage has changed forever, and manufacturing will never take place in this country again in the form we knew it historically. New methods will need to be employed, technology will take over, and I still believe firmly that the sector has great potential as an employer, but I suspect in much different form than we historically knew. That change is already happening in my electorate. That's why the government has put an emphasis on a number of other sectors that will, as the economy gets moving, take up the employment slack. Roads of national significance are hugely important to my electorate, Mr Speaker. They get our product to the international market. We must remember, of course, in the process of getting the roads of national significance done, we've got to get our product to the roads of national significance. That will continue to challenge us in rural New Zealand and will challenge the councils around us. Mr Speaker, this is an exciting and challenging time to be in government, and it's a privilege to be able to serve under this wonderful Prime Minister, his very talented Cabinet and united caucus. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Xian Yang.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to speak in today's debate on the Prime Minister's statement to Parliament. I'm proud to be able to stand here today, along with my national colleagues, to say that national-led government has been and will continue to work hard for New Zealand. Unlike the opposition, we have a strong and realistic plan to encourage investment, strengthen our economy and boost jobs for New Zealanders. We are getting on with the job of responsibly managing the government's finance, which will reduce our debt. Plus, our wide-ranging program of reforms will create a more productive and competitive economy, which will benefit all New Zealanders and help us to compete better on the world stage. Mr. Speaker, as an immigrant and proud New Zealander, I believe New Zealand is the best place to live and to raise my two girls.